All right, so now we're going to look at solving quadratic equations by factoring. And so anytime you solve by factoring, the first thing you need to do is you need to make sure it equals zero. It's my equation equals zero, it does. Second thing, always when you're factoring, the first thing you do when you factor is you look at the greatest common factor. Okay, so I'm going to look at the greatest common factor here and see if I can factor it out. So 3 and 9 have 3. X squared and x have an x. I'm going to take out 3x. So whatever the greatest common factor is, you're going to write that down, put an open parenthesis, and we're going to do the opposite of distributive property. We're going to divide each of these by 3x. 3 divided by 3 is 1. I had 2 x's. I take 1 out, so 1's left. 9 divided by 3 is 3. I had an x, took it out, nothing left, equals 0. Okay. Now we're going to apply the zero product principle. Some call it the zero product property. So what does that mean? That means if I have an expression times another expression with a variable in it equal to 0, I can set each expression equal to 0 with the variable in it. So I'm going to set this factor equal to 0 and that factor equal to 0. So I'm going to make two equations, 3x equals 0 and x minus 3 equals 0. And I'm going to solve each of these equations, okay? So you factor first, and then for each piece that has a variable in it, you set it equal to 0. Okay, so then here, it's multiplying by 3, so I'll divide by 3. So 0 divided by 3, I have nothing to divide among 3 people. Each person gets nothing. All right, here, add 3, x equals 3. Okay, so that's my answer. I don't know if you recall, we talked about this, the fundamental theorem of algebra. My highest power is 2, so I could have up to 2 solutions, okay? So that's what we're doing. Quadratics, it works a little differently. Okay, linear equations, I only had 1. Now, I did have 2 with absolute value, but that was a little different. All right, next one on B. Okay, I'm going to factor this. First thing I want to do is make it equal to 0. So I'm going to make this equal to 0, subtract 1. 2x squared plus x minus 1. Now, if you're solving by factoring, try to keep this leading coefficient positive. You keep that leading coefficient positive. Now, let's go through our factoring rules. This time, first thing we always ask, do I have any common factors? I don't. This time I have a trinomial because it's got 3 terms, and so I got to evaluate, is the leading coefficient a, is it equal to 1 or greater than 1? In this case, it's a is greater than 1. So if a is greater than 1, then what I've got to do is I've got to do one of those 2 methods, those longer methods. I either got to do factoring by grouping or I got to do guess and check. Okay, I'm going to do factoring by grouping. So how does factoring by grouping work? 2x squared times, I multiply the first and the last, 2x squared times negative 1, negative 2x squared. And I find 2 terms that multiply to negative 2x squared, add to 1. Now, how do you multiply to a negative and add to a positive? You need a negative and a positive. What multiplies to negative 2 and adds to 1? What about negative 1x and 2x? Negative 1 times 2x is negative 2x squared. Negative 1x plus 2x is 1x. So I'm going to rewrite this trinomial plugging in these factor pairs. So 2x squared minus x plus 2x minus 1. So now I've got an expression with 4 terms. So what I want to do now is I'm going to put parentheses on the first 2, parentheses on the last 2. Make sure you have the plus sign in the middle. If you have a minus sign in the middle, you want to do plus negative. Just negative for the term directly to the right. And then I want to ask myself, what do these have in common? What's 2x squared and x have in common? Well, their greatest common factor is x. I'm going to take out x, and I'm going to take out an x out of each of these terms. So if I take out an x out of this, 2x squared, down to 2x. Now here I take out an x, what am I left with? Well, I'm basically dividing by x, so x divided by x is just 1. Okay, so I'm dividing like 5 divided by 5 is 1. 10 divided by 10 is 1. Anytime you divide a quantity by the same value, is just going to be 1. 2x and 1, what do they have in common? Well, they don't have anything in common except 1, so I'm going to just take out 1. So that doesn't change it. Then I'll look and see, okay, do I have a common binomial? I want this binomial here to be a common binomial factor. I do. I have a common binomial, 2x minus 1, that's being multiplied with each of those. So I'm going to take out 2x minus 1. When I take that out, I'm going to write down what's left. Over here, I'd have x. Over here, I have plus 1. Okay, and so that's equal to 0. Now we're going to apply the zero product principle, or the zero product property. What does that mean? We're going to set each of these binomials equal to 0. So set 2x minus 1 equal to 0, or an arrow up here, and x plus 1 equal to 0. Okay? So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to solve them for x. So just solving, this is like solving a linear equation. Add 1, divide by 2, x equals 1/2. Here, I've got x plus 1 equals 0, subtract 1, x equals -1. So once again, quadratic equation, you can have up to 2 answers on a quadratic equation.